Greetings, heathens and heretics, and welcome to, you know what? It's the first post-Tory government in the Abyss episode, isn't it? The first ever one.
Uh, Brave New World.
Yeah, in it. So, yeah, obviously, happy days. It's Friday the 5th, so we've had it all. There'll be plenty of rants and digs, I'm sure. It's me, Voice of Reason, and the Holy Man back in the UK. And because we haven't had him on for ages, and he said he was primed for a rant. We thought we thought we'd get Dave back on from Black City Records. So Dave, welcome back. It's been a while.
Thank you, mate. It's good to be
Uh,
back.
Yeah, you're literally going to fall asleep there, mate.
I feel like it. I sat up till fucking 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I did too. But
oh,
I was it's like I was like slipping in and out of consciousness, and every time I woke up, it was like another
see,
couple of seats went to the
Another wound.
I took the opposite effect. I watched the exit poll at 10 o'clock. Then I went to bed for 3 or 4 hours, and I got up at 2:45 to watch the carnage. So I've been up most of the day.
You know, fuck it.
I mean, like this is the Conservatives' St. Anger moment. and but hopefully, when St. Anger came up, we all wanted them to come back from that mistake, but we don't want the Tories to come back from this. And I was disappointed because Billy Bragg, although I'm not his biggest fan, he put an interesting post up on Twitter that he said that the opportunity is not just to elect the Labour government, it's to elect the Liberal Democrats to be the official opposition. And I thought that was quite an interesting proposition.
Yeah.
So I'm quite disappointed that the Lib Dems didn't get more votes, so they could have been the official opposition. Because I think not only would you have then seen the Conservatives really put out of business for probably the next best part of 10 years, but it would have changed the tone of the debates in the House of Commons, because the Liberals, Labour wouldn't have been able to say to the Liberals, yeah, but when you were in power. I mean, they could have referred to the coalition, but that's one of the problems is when you see the debates, it's well, when you were in power, that's 14 years ago. I mean, how far back do you want to go? Do you want to go all the way back to Stanley Baldwin's first Labour government in the 1920s? Come on. Yeah.
Realistically, that was never going to happen. I know they talked about all these polls and super majorities and complete wipeout, but it was always a bit of a fantasy.
I thought that was the claims of having a supermajority were complete hyperbole.
Oh yeah,
it was also erroneous, because in the UK parliamentary system, there's no such thing as a supermajority. You either have a majority or you don't.
Yeah.
So that, again, it was this rabble rousing. But I met the Labour candidate in my constituency. He came around to my house, so because obviously he needed my blessing.
Of course.
No, but that was the difference, because I spoke to my parents and they said he had come round the year before. He's obviously been going door to door for a long time. They have never seen anyone from the Conservatives. They never saw anyone from the Lib Dems, and they've only ever had flyers to the post. So that, I think, if that was the case in a lot of other constituencies, that can make the difference. Although I would be interested, right? Because I said to a few people yesterday, "Oh, have you voted?" "Oh, don't know. Probably going to vote Conservative." And I was like, "Well, why?" "Oh, because we're business owners." And I was just like thinking, Dave, you're a business owner. How does this affect you?
Very genuinely, I grew up during Thatcher's era. I remember the euphoria of the Labour government coming in and Tony Blair. I just think it's just going to be just exactly the same. I think they're all lying. To paraphrase Lemmy, they're all lying cunts. That's their job. That's what they're employed for.
Yep.
Not fuck the Tories. Fuck the government. Just fuck them.
Fuck them all. Self-serving pigs, a lot of them. Damn. What
Yeah,
colour?
they are. They are. Who wants to build a career out of the acquisition of power?
Well, that's what we're doing.
This is the other point. Sorry, go on.
I will bring in a voice of reason for that, actually, because I know I do have a problem with Lemmy and I suppose that sort of attitude, because there's a lot of people in minorities out there whose lives have been changed for the better by people putting policies through government. I agree with what Starmer said today about politics should be good and it should work for people and it should be about public service. They've got to put it into practice. but that is what it should be fundamentally. You know, we need government because most people are fucking idiots and need to be governed. And yeah, and there's plenty of good politicians out there. So
yeah, just not enough. It's more the
No,
exception
not
than the
enough.
rule, though, isn't it? That's the problem.
I find the whole idea or the existence of this concept of safe seats in this country. When you have the same in the American system, you've got certain congressional districts which would never be Democrat, would never be Republican. It's the same here. And I know there are some classic conservative seats that have gone to Labour, but one of the problems is but they should have term limits. You know, you should be like, you can be an MP, but you can only be an MP for 15 years or 3 terms or something, whatever it is. I mean, 4 terms maybe. But like this idea that you can go into it in Parliament at the age of 30 and you can still be there when you're 60. What have you got to offer? What have
you got no real life experience of the real world.
Yeah, exactly. And then it doesn't matter if you like the Conservative MP or a candidate in this constituency was like, oh, I've owned a fish and chip shop. I'm a businessman. Okay,
oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and it was the tenor of the leaflets that were coming through the door. Like, so apparently the Labour candidate here is called Perrin Moon, and his dad was a doctor in Redruth for years at the old Campbell and Redruth Hospital, right? So he is local, but they're like, the Tory propaganda was like, he's not even local. He's lived in Oxfordshire. And when he lived in Oxfordshire, he was a councillor and he blocked money coming to Cornwall. And you're like, hang on. How does an Oxfordshire councillor have any sway over funding going to a different county? And it's just it's that kind of the tactics of desperation. And it's just like, you know, it's like the Sepultura song, Desperate Cry. I mean, it's just absolute desperation. I mean, the final thing for me was like, I hope I even found myself agreeing with Farage earlier because he was talking about proportional representation, and I've been an advocate for proportional representation in some form since I did A levels. So I'd like to see a serious conversation about that now because
I'm with you on that. To be fair, that should be the fair way of doing it.
Again, the counterpoint for that, and this is what I saw on Twitter, is that when you have something like proportional representation, you will end up in a position where a party like Reform or worse, further right than that, will end up having quite a few MPs in Parliament, which on the face of it seems fair because, you know, that's what the demand is from the public. But the thing is you can end up, you can go sort of, you can spread that influence more. And if you see what it's like in the EU Parliament, where, you know, the hard rights in that country join up with the hard rights in that country, and it all becomes a bit unified and organised, and you're giving them a platform to do that with proportional representation. So you've got to do that without allowing that. It's really
a system that has an inbuilt criteria that it can block other people from forming together to voice an opinion is not democratic. If we're a democracy, then we should act like it. And I don't care about, you know, whether or not Farage has got 4, 5, 6, or 10 seats. And what the point you make, it comes from the age-old argument, oh, well, you know, Nazi Germany had proportional representation and the Nazis were elected into power, which is completely inaccurate. They were not. But if you have PR, then you're going to have a system of government or in a setup in Parliament, which is going to be less antagonistic. So you might see a picture where you get the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats actually working closer together because they need to cooperate with each other. So this kind of prosecutorial style where all they do is they just yell insults at each other and they all heckle.
So like we do basically, you can't.
But we're not getting paid to do this, and we've got no responsibilities, and no one's like, you know, no one's like, you know, I'm a single mother and I need some more universal credit. You know, no one's doing that. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean,
we'll move on now, but Starmer's got to walk the walk now, isn't he? So let's see what happens. Yeah, they're probably Labour are probably safe for the next 2 terms, really. Yeah, you know, so let's see what happens.
When is one of these political parties going to really embrace British subcultures and start, you know, using where metal song is there? Like, do we have to have D Ream again? Things can only get better. Is that
you could have had Desperate Cry for the Tories?
seriously, they need to get Richard Bergen, the MP for Leeds East, as the Secretary of State for Metal.
Secretary of State for Metal.
Yeah,
Imagine that.
and then you can have an
Oh,
under second, and you can have a permanent cabinet secretary for thrash.
Right, before this goes properly tits up, we are here for a reason. So a couple of weeks ago, myself and Bean had a sort of a quick chat, really, I suppose, over the state of live music in the UK, and put it out to social media. And we've got quite a lot of opinion back, and it was only right to sort of dive into this in a little bit more detail, because it's something that's important to all of us. We all have a gig. I was out last night at the Acacia Strain. Decent turnout last night. O2 Academy, Islington, whatever it's fucking called. Probably, I would say probably 90% full, which was decent. But in general, we want to talk a little bit more about what the state of the live music scene is in the UK and potentially beyond. Like Dave, you've been to Hellfest and things like that in the last couple of years, so we'll sort of get a steer on that. So we'll kick it off then. When we were talking about the state of live music, like we said last week, we went to see Flamebearer 2 weeks ago. 20 people there in a venue that holds 350, and that's what kind of triggered this. So, first thoughts then, what from you lot, and Dave from you, because you're in a different part of the country to the rest of us. What's it like in Bristol? I mean, when we came down, there was quite a healthy turnout for the birthday weekend, but in general, what's it like down there at the minute?
I think it's the same, to be honest. I was at a gig last night up at the Griff, and there was probably 10, 12 people there.
Yeah. Was that a free show?
No. It was £8. And a week or two before, I for the life of me, I can't remember who they're called, but somebody was playing the O2, like a metalcore band, and it's a 1,600 capacity venue, and they'd sold 600 tickets.
Yeah, and that would have felt empty, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, it just seems impossible, no matter what you do, to just try and get people out, even if there are free gigs going on or free events going on. No one wants to leave the comfort of their living room, and I just don't understand it.
I think what we're looking at again, so like we've just been talking about the election, but what I pick up on every time I come home, and it's becoming more and more kind of noticeable or profound, is there just seems to be this malaise in this country. People they seem like they're burnt out, and I don't know why, but I kind of just get a sense of it when I come home. And if you're in that kind of mood where all you do is your life completely revolves around work, and you've got a kind of constant low level anxiety that you don't earn enough money, you can't make ends meet, it kills your kind of vibe that makes you the vibe that you have that wants to go out, be social, pay money for things, go to gigs. And I think, look at pubs. People don't want to pay the money in pubs, so they'll go and buy the 6 or the 12 pack from Tesco's because it's cheaper. And that might have something to do with it. I mean, there are so many different strands to this. There's infrastructure, societal, cost, economic. Maybe there are certain areas of the country that there's overkill, like that maybe there are too many gigs, or people have just been so spoiled for so long that it takes something incredibly different to get people to like kind of stick their head up above a parapet and go, oh, that looks good, let's go to that. Like, for example, like when I lived in Korea and Lamb of God played in Seoul, the tickets sold out in about an hour or two, and it was a medium-sized show, but because that band coming to Korea was a special event, it doesn't happen that much. So you're like, shit, this is a metal band coming. I don't care if I don't like them, I'm going because I want to be at a metal gig, and I don't think you have that at the moment.
I think we do with some bands around here. So when you get your Cannibal Corpses come through, they'll sell out, and Anthrax and all of those kinds of bands. But it's that very small label kind of band or unsigned band. Just people just they just can't seem to be bothered. I went and saw Tower. Do you know the band Tower?
Yeah. Sort of trad. Yeah.
Yeah, from New York. They played upstairs at the Griff, and there was about 7 people there. They come all the way from New York.
Yeah.
Now, are they going to come back to Bristol? No.
Nope.
That's a good point.
No, and that is part of the problem. So we'll talk about Cornwall just quickly. Over the next few weeks down in Falmouth and Penryn, you've got Ugly Kid Joe are playing Princess Pavilions, and Coffin Mulch are playing in Penryn as well. Now, obviously, Coffin Mulch, death metal band, their profile's not as big as the likes of Ugly Kid Joe, but they're only playing in a tiny little venue. Will people turn up for that show? That's the thing. And where someone like Cornwall has been starved for ever since we were kids, if people don't turn up to those shows, whoever's promoting that will not put another one on because they're going to lose a load of money. It feels disheartening when hardly anyone turns up to a show. So I might be wrong. Hopefully loads of people will turn up, but that is something to think about. The whole people can't be asked to get off their sofas and actually go to these gigs. That's a major point. I can't work out what it is.
Is that too easy though? Is it too easy to say people can't be asked? What is making them to be so either nonchalant or apathetic about it? What I think this is a symptom of something else.
Well, I'll give you a couple of the feedback points that we had on social media. Got quite a lot, but just a couple to pick out. Distance and general logistics of getting to shows is a big one. So obviously, for those of us in London, it's easy. It's a piece of piss. The Acacia Strain last night finished at 10 o'clock. I was back home in Chelmsford just after 11. Job done, easy. But if you're somewhere else in the UK, that's not always that straightforward. So that's fair enough. Cost is obviously a big one that came up. Well, those are probably 2 major points: logistics and cost.
When everything is too bloody expensive and you have to budget whether you like it or not, and you've got to make the effort, it just all adds up.
Yeah, it does.
That's the trouble.
It does.
I was saying to Steve last week about this, and there's been a bit of I think over the last sort of 15 years, there's just been a bit of a priority and mindset change with the general public. So you'll get people who will come in here in this shop and they'll pick up a record and it's like 25, 30 quid, say 30 quid on the higher end. And they'll go, oh, I don't know, I've got to save my money, it's a bit expensive at the moment. Now, this is something that they're going to have and hold forever.
Yeah.
But lower prices then, you rich motherfucker.
But then they'll go down the road and buy 2 cups of coffee and a cake for like 15, 16 quid.
Yeah.
Or they'll go home that night and have a takeaway at 35 quid and not even bat a fucking eyelid at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it a case of, let's say you're a band promoter, like going back to Tregence's point, you're a band promoter, you put a gig on in Falmouth, or you bring a band over from New York, 6 people turn up, and you're like, fuck this, I can't sustain these losses. But it's like you're looking for that instant gratification. You want that gig to be sold out, and then so you can do it again. But they're not looking big picture. So, like, if you've got an established scene, then maybe people are going to be more willing to support the scene, go to the gigs, pay the money. I also think that it's very, and again, it's like instant gratification. I don't want that album, but I want the Starbucks coffee and I want the piece of cake to go with it. And that's like instant. It's like we're all like kind of dopamine junkies right now, or caffeine junkies, or junkies of some kind. So like, I want that instant fix. And maybe that owning the album, listening to it, whatever, putting it in your collection, it's too delayed. It's not instantaneous enough.
That's a valid point when it comes to buying gig tickets, though, because you'll buy a gig ticket, you'll spend 50 quid on a ticket, and it might be 6 months before you actually go to that show. So it does feel like you're spending out money and you're not seeing anything for it. I get that, actually. That goes through my mind sometimes.
I think on the physical...
You can't put a price on those experiences that you've or anyone else has had when they've gone and see one of their favorite bands, or when they've seen a band that they didn't think was going to be very good and they blew them away, or you just discovered a band live, like you went to the third stage at a festival. But it also sings just as much when you don't get to go to the gig. So like, I hate the fact that I was in Korea for the Big Four, like the one tour that was custom built for Padre, and I wasn't there, and I will take that to my grave, that I wasn't able to go, and I would have loved to have been able to go and see it, and then be with you guys and with my mates, and just have that would have been like one of the ultimate experiences of my pathetic existence. Yeah, the ADHD's kicking. I forgot my point.
On the physical media point, I'll go back to that whilst you're burying around your train of thought. I think, we talked about physical media and digital and this and that. We know that there has been a significant shift towards digital media in the last 15 years. And even with the rebirth of vinyl and some other bits and pieces which people are rediscovering, we have been encouraged by, I suppose, the man to keep everything digital and go light and minimize our possessions. And because obviously, if you've got no possessions, then that's less to cart around with you next time you've got to move. And actually you can't afford a flat of more than a certain size. So if I've got possessions, I'm just going to have to put them in storage, etc., etc. Everything's become compact because that's all we can afford. And so
compact and convenient.
Yeah, and even if someone wants to go in, they go into a shop and they want to buy a record and they look at that and they want to buy it, but they're like, oh, I probably shouldn't really, should I? Because it's just more space. Whereas obviously us lot, we're like, yeah, fuck it, just buy it and worry about it later. A lot of people.
Yep. I remember just when I first started university, and my mother was like, you should go and get a part-time job at like Burger King and McDonald's because you can get a staff discount and you can eat cheap. And I was like, yeah, but I want to try and get a job at Virgin Records. And she was saying, no, get a job at a restaurant because you can eat. I said, yeah, but you can't listen to food. So like, and like the amount of money, and I got a job at a computer game shop in the end, and I just remember buying computer games that I didn't even need. But I think the voice is right. It's like people don't see the value in it.
But let's talk about the experience side of it then, because when you go to a gig, and I posted on Instagram last night, I'd had a couple of beers and it felt like the right thing to say. When you go to a gig and it's that good, you will remember that gig and you'll remember it for years. And if it's that fucking good, you'll remember it for your entire life. So, I mean, Dave, you're a little bit older than us. What year was your first proper metal gig?
88, Iron Maiden.
And you remember everything about that show, don't you?
Absolutely everything. The journey there, the journey back, the whole lot.
Yeah, everything about that. So this is what I mean. You can't buy those experiences outside of doing this kind of thing. And even when you look at, AC/DC at Wembley Stadium the other night, and you've had artists like Pink and people like artists that put on big, flamboyant, over-the-top shows. That's what people are paying the big money for, because they're now getting experience. You're paying 150 quid for a gig ticket. You need to know you're getting something special for it. You're getting a performance, you're getting a huge production and fucking fireworks and flames and cannons and all that stuff. Whereas at the smaller level, it's different. You're paying 30, 40 quid. You want to come out sweaty, your ears are ringing, you've just had the best fucking time. You can have both.
If you can't appreciate a gig like the one that we saw Flamebearer do the other week and appreciate the amount of effort that those guys put into playing in front of 25 people.
Absolutely.
I don't want to see you at the big shows. Fuck off. Stay at home. Like it's
earn your right.
It's the part-time fans, it's like all those part-timers going to Glastonbury, or it's like the people that are the amateur drinkers only come out on St. Patrick's Day. The amateur gig goers only come out at for Glastonbury or maybe Reading, but definitely Glastonbury. And like I just want, every time I see Glastonbury coverage, I'm physically sick because the amount of people throwing up the devil horns, and I'm like, it's not fucking appropriate. You're stealing from my subculture. I want to chop their fucking fingers off. Like it's like, why are you throwing up devil horns to Shania fucking Twain? Have you got no respect?
The thing to bear in mind. Sorry, Dave.
No, go on.
I'll just say the thing to bear in mind though with your Glastonburys and your big stadium gigs is a significant portion of them are people who don't go to regular gigs. They're not music fans like us. They don't live it day in day out. They're casual fans. They might have got an album for Christmas, that kind of thing, and it's a day out for them. So it's they're not fans like we are.
So are we saying there's not enough fans? Is that what it is? Hey, gatekeeping, you fucking fuck.
They're not pure. They're not pure blood like an Aryan.
I think on the subject of festivals, I think there's too many festivals.
Yeah,
definitely too many festivals. Definitely.
And I think people are too invested in festivals. So you go back to like the heyday and the golden days of this music, and you had the Monsters of Rock once a year, and that was it.
One day.
One day, and whether you were into Poison or if you were into thrash and whatnot, everyone would go there. And it was one day. And now, as its replacement, we've got Download, we've got Bloodstock, we've got Desert Fest, Incineration, Cosmic Void, Fortress, Damnation. It goes on and on and on. And people are just so invested in going to festivals rather than supporting gigs.
Can't beat
52 weeks a year.
You can't. You're right, Dave, and you cannot beat a good one-day festival.
No,
I mean it's a shame that nothing's really replaced Ozfest. Ozfest was supposed to try and replace the decline of Monsters of Rock. It's Monsters of Rock was a kind of reaction to Reading in their eyes going soft. So Reading and Glastonbury are fine. They're established. They've been going for decades. They have their place. I'm sure there's other festivals which cater to specific genres that that doesn't really affect us. But this proliferation of multiple festivals and their derivatives of each other, that's if they stay regional, then I don't see a problem. But if they're all competing for the same, money, then they're never gonna get to the point where they're sustainable.
This is an issue regardless of what type of music you're into, though, because not everybody is a staunch metalhead or they're just into hip hop. A lot of people are into all sorts of different genres. So if you are into the lineup at Reading one year and you're also into the lineup of Bloodstock or Download, you've got to make the decision between going to one or the other, because before you know it, that's £1,000 gone just on 3 tickets.
But all the while, those local gigs are suffering.
Yeah.
And the local promoters are suffering.
Yeah.
I got a friend who's a promoter, and he put on Facebook about festival season. He says, as a promoter, festival season is like having a big Tesco open up next to your corner shop. They pop up, drag all your custom away, fuck off, and you got to pick up the pieces for 10 months.
Festivals are they're high stakes events. Like they take a year of planning. They're incredibly expensive. They have to have all the additional things going on to entertain people when they're not watching the bands. They're susceptible to the weather, but they also seem to be catering to the people that want that spectacle that they can put in the background for their Instagram account. Because it's not like I went to the festival and I saw this band. It's I was there. I've done it. I've ticked it off. I've got the T-shirt. And it's like, but they're not willing to go. They wouldn't go and see the same band in a smaller venue and drive 10 miles and come back the same day or the same evening, but because they want to be able to say to their friends, yeah, I've been to Glastonbury, I've been to Reading, and they're just like, it just contributes to such a tepid atmosphere at the festivals. I mean, I can't speak for Glastonbury. I've never had any interest in going there.
When you watch Glastonbury footage on TV, people look bored. That's what I don't get. I mean, none of them are festivals anymore. That word may as well not exist. They're not festivals. They're just outdoor concerts. They're just big corporate events. Even Glastonbury.
Yeah, that's it. And their corporate events run by Glastonbury Festival is basically a corporation now.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny though, because do you remember the other week I said, we should actually get the farm next to Glastonbury and start our own metal festival. So I actually went to Devon last weekend to see one of my friends that I used to live with back in Cardiff, and she was telling me that one of her family members owns the farm next to Glastonbury. So there might be a avenue into that.
Let's start a crowdfunder, get it going. The festival thing, people look at it as value for money. They'll spend 250 quid on a ticket for download, which is obviously a lot of money, but they will probably see between 20 and 30 bands over that weekend. That's where people are looking at it. They see it as value for money. Because, like you said, they're just ticking it off. Right, I've seen this band, I've seen this band, I've seen this band, and I've only paid 250 quid for it all.
I think you could, in the same way, you could make the argument that okay, so you go to Glastonbury, so you can say that you've been, and you can have the Facebook pictures, and you can wear the butterfly wings, and put the UV paint on your face, and do all that crap, and pretend to be a hippie for 3 days. Well, and then you go back and increase your carbon footprint by having another 5 fucking kids. But you
spot on,
yeah,
spot on,
yeah. But in the same way, like, sometimes we go to gigs, the small gigs, and we're not just going to see the band, we're going to be just present in the scene. But I think that's the difference. It's like, you're with your tribe at some of these gigs, and it doesn't even matter about the gig, the band playing. You're just there because you like the venue, your mates are there, you're supporting the venue, the promoter, maybe the people that are playing, all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people, they've separated from that now. They're only going to the band. They're not supporting the wider scene. They're not going to the venue. And this is what you need. You need people to go to the gigs to pay the money, despite who's playing, because it's maybe it's part of your once or twice a month. That's what you do. Like, I remember going down to the Fleece in Bristol when I was at university to see Raging Speedhorn, and I wasn't really into hardcore, but I thought it's a gig, it's nearby. It's at a place that I know. I might meet some cool people. I remember doing poppers with a load of people outside before the gig. It was fucked when I went in. And I was so wasted. I fell into the Raging Sea table, broke the table, and the singer, got really pissed with me. He said, "You're gonna have to pay for some of that now." I said, "Mate, I'm a student. I've got no fucking money."
I'm going to offer something else, and it's maybe a minor point. Could be one you want to take up, and I'm not sure it's a British thing, but I do think we are all collectively overwhelmed. There is too much, and I'm sorry for using this word, content out there at the moment. Music, it's great to have all this choice, because the more there is, the more great stuff there will be. Music, films, video games, comics, books, all of it. There's too much. And obviously, when your population increases and you've got more creative people or more people making this because they can, and people go to work and they watch their films and their TV shows on their phones as they go to work, and they come home and do the same. And I just think people are numb in some ways, because it's just a constant barrage of things to be absorbed. And maybe that's hypocritical of me, because I'm always listening to music or reading something, but I try and balance it. I go for a morning and an evening walk when I've got my headphones in, so I'm kind of sort of almost interacting with nature. And I divide my time between screens and physical, like paper media, for example. I know when to split things up, but even I still feel like, oh gosh, it's just too much. And I think it almost like limits people's enthusiasms and motivation to do anything outside of their house, or just generally. It's just,
I think you're right there, because I always, if you look at an album, say albums like Rust in Peace and Seasons in the Abyss and stuff like that, we all think of them as absolute timeless classic albums. Now, do we think of them as timeless classic albums because they are? Or do we think of them like that because at that point in time when they came out, we only had 30 odd albums a year that we were listening to?
Yep.
Whereas now you're getting 30 a day. It's fucking impossible. It's impossible to keep on top of everything. And you got your whole end of the year, best of albums, and this is our best album of the year. When was the last time you listened to it?
Can I just say something?
Yesterday.
Those two we've been the two episodes we've done. the 2 years we've been running album of the year, they just make me curl up in a ball in a natal position with a cold sweat, because I'm like, I just don't know what to fucking say. Like, I'm with Dave. I'm completely fucking overwhelmed. I'll listen to 10 or 20. I had a red letter day the other day, and I messaged Tregenza about this. I said, I've actually just listened at a day where I haven't listened to a single band or track that I'd heard before. And I sent him the list. And he didn't even give me any brownie points for it, you know? But I can't listen to it. I can't process it all. And like, I live on a fucking compound in the desert. I've got plenty of times on my hand. I don't want to listen to 30 albums in a day or in a week. Or it's just because Dave's right. Some of it is just utter pants. It's derivative. It's not, nothing makes it stand out. It's just, you know, it's either it's inaccessible because of the lyrics. It's the guitar playing's crap. There's no actual skill. The songs are badly crafted, or it's good, but it's not like, that is absolutely amazing, I need to stop that, go back to the beginning and listen to it all over again. There have been a few things I've heard this year like that. Like, you know, I listened to everything Judiciary had put out the other day, and I was on the train coming back from Devon, and I was like, I'm just messaging Tregenza, this is fucking amazing, this is. So, but those moments for me at the moment right now are few and far between, where something makes me stop. It's like Alfred Hitchcock says, like, you've got the fridge moment after you see the film, where you get up in the middle of the night and you open the fridge and you're like, hang on, fuck, what's that about? You know, nothing. There's none of that at the minute. Not enough of it anyway.
Yeah, oversaturation is a fair point, and especially for us, those of us that live in the southeast as well. That, you know, if you wanted to, you could go to a gig. You could go to a metal gig, pretty much 7 nights a week in London. You know, if you really wanted to, and that's just one genre of music. So if you are into other sorts and you want to do, you are sort of sport for choice. Every Friday, you know, K-Man's list on Twitter, which is incredible. The work that man puts into doing that is unreal. But it's almost become a I don't know, it's almost like a rite of passage now that you've got to be on top of all the new albums that come out every single week. You've got to have your opinion on it. I mean, we obviously do because of what we're doing here, but sometimes you just want to listen to an album and just you listen to it and you've enjoyed it and it's good, and you might listen to it again. You don't have to give an opinion on it. But with the power of social media, and that is obviously helping bands with promoting their music, because word of mouth is the best form of promotion. It's there whether we like it or not now. There's positives, there's negatives, but it is there whether we like it or not. And it's just that has now almost become more of a scene than everyone circulating around a venue or a bar or a gig or anything like that. It's now become more about the social media community.
Social media isn't a scene; it's where the scene's gone on to.
That's what I mean. That's exactly the point I'm making. People are less face to face now at bars, venues, gigs, and they're doing it on Twitter. We're guilty of it. Do it all the time, and it's good because it is a great way of finding new music and talking to new people. And I've met people through doing this and our Twitter profiles, and, you know, I know how you doing, and it's fucking great. But I don't know, we are losing something, and it feels like if it doesn't shift soon, then it's just going to sort of crumble around us, and the gigs will just stop happening because people aren't going to go. Promoters aren't going to keep doing it.
I remember years ago when I was working in the previously mentioned computer game shop. Do you remember there used to be those games on the PlayStation 2 and the PC where they weren't games, they were like they came preloaded with like all the samples, and you could have put drums and everything in it. And this guy just came up to me, he goes, is this something like this for heavy metal? And I just went, I was just like, no. I said, and I
can imagine that.
And I just said there is. I said I'm a massive metal fan. I said there's absolutely no way that metal fans are going to pay attention to something that was put together on a PlayStation or a PC, because, you know, we want to see people playing instruments live, and no one's gonna go and pay and see someone putting together samples of guitar riffs on a laptop. And I think to some extent I'm still right with that, because most of us want to see bands live, but it's under threat. I'm not so
massively
sure
under
about
threat.
it.
It's massively under threat. What about the ticket pricing? Let's talk about that, because there's a fine line between, the gigs of like sort of 500 to 1,000 capacity, for instance, say like a Camden Underworld, which holds 500 people. You're now paying 30 quid to go and see a band at Camden Underworld. I booked my Spectral Wound ticket, which was 30 quid. 5 years ago, pre-COVID, that would have been 12, 13, 15 tops. Obviously, the cost of everything has gone through the roof, which is driving it. But at what point do you say, that's too much? I mean, the Sepultura tickets, the Anthrax and Creator tickets, they were sort of all around about the 60 quid mark. Hylung are coming back to the UK next year and doing Academy shows, and they're £80 a ticket.
What?
Yeah, 77 quid for a Hylung ticket at Brixton Academy.
Yeah, see, I've noticed that Brixton getting stupid prices. Although is Brixton, is that, have they almost got their own surcharge thing going on at the moment for security?
Maybe they might have, but you still, when we're now getting to 70, 80 quid for Academy size shows, that was arena shows this year and last year, and now it's Academy size shows. So how long is it going to be before it's 100 quid to see a band at Brixton Academy?
There is, and I think, again, I don't want to get political, but I think it is a thing since COVID happened and whatnot. There is a profiteering fucking culture at the moment.
Must be.
There is massive, there is people taking full advantage because, we can get away with putting up prices because of inflation or because of this or because of COVID or whatever. And they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing because people will pay it. And I've said this so many times, if people buy this stuff on these high prices, they'll keep charging it.
People aren't paying for it, though. People aren't paying for it because they're not going.
But a lot of people are.
But a lot of people are, and this is what I'm saying about the stadium shows. People are still paying 150 to 200 quid to go to stadium shows.
Green Day, Wembley Stadium, 200 quid.
200 quid, yeah.
It's sold out.
But I think the thrust of what we're trying to talk about is it's the smaller gigs.
Yeah, but it's those ones that are 200 quid are affecting the smaller shows. Yeah.
This is the thing.
That's the thing. And it's like, do you want to? Sorry, go on.
It's all of this is an ecosystem. You need the small stuff to happen and work at a moderate pace for everything to feed up. You need bands to play at that level and be seen at that level and grow at that level before they can do the medium size and et cetera, and grow. If you don't have, small gigs, small venues, small record shops, they are the pollen, they are the nectar of the music scene. If that isn't there for the bees to latch onto, everything else dies. We die.
Fucking what analogy that was, but it's true. It's exactly true. But last night, right? The Acacia Strain, Judiciary, Fuming Mouth, and Split Knuckle, 4 bands in the Academy last night, and I think it was less than 25 quid a ticket.
Good.
That was good value. Well, well worth it. 4 great bands. It was only 3 hours for all 4 bands, quite short sets, but that's absolutely fine. But a lot of shows at that venue now are 40 quid and up. And that's when people are probably starting to think that might be too much. By the time I had a couple of pints, because it was 8 quid a pint in the Academy.
Oh,
fuck's sake.
So, and T-shirts were sort of ranging around about the 30 quid mark. So that's all creeping up. AC/DC tickets T-shirts the other night were 45 quid for a T-shirt. So all these things will add up. Before you know it, bang, 100 quid is gone, just like that.
Yeah.
Drain fare as well, yeah, all of that. So you're right. And Dave, you've used these words before. Someone is making money out of this somewhere, whether it's out of records, CDs, gig tickets, the price of beer. Someone is making money.
Yeah, we've got like a really good friendship with the guys in Municipal Waste, and every time they come through, they come here. And the last time they came through, I said to them, like, come and set your merch up in my shop. I will stay open until everyone's fucking gone home. And you can sell your merch out of my shop. Because they were just playing down the road. And I was chatting with Tony Forrester. And he said that the O2 Academies take 40% of their merch cut.
That's fucking insane.
O2, yeah. They're ridiculous.
So they bought a merch person on tour with them, and she wasn't allowed to work that night, just in case there was any cash, and so everything was properly accounted for. So they take 20% for the VAT for putting it through their till systems, which I get. I understand that because that's kind of what I have to do. And then they take a 20% service charge on it to put their person behind the counter working. So when you get this stuff on social media going, oh, fucking so-and-so's charging 50 quid a t-shirt, they're not. The venue are charging.
Yeah.
They're being forced to sell their merch at that price. And it's like £8 pints, like you say. That does not cost fucking 8 quid.
No.
So it's the bigger corporations, it's the people pulling the strings at the top who are making the money out of it. The band aren't making any money. Nope. The promoter's probably not making any money. And us as the fans and supporters are losing it left, right, and centre.
They'll be blaming, having to pay a minimum wage, and pension payments and this and that, costs, health and safety, regulatory stuff basically. That's
immigrants too. They'll probably find a way to blame immigrants.
Yeah, it's we see this a lot, and we see it worse in America, California especially, where as soon as there's a good law to protect people, loads of restaurants will suddenly shut down. So it's like, oh, we can't afford to pay this. It's like, no, you're just not willing to actually go without a big fucking profit.
What I'm interested in is, so Dave, if were Municipal Waste able to turn around to the O2 Arena and say, oh, actually, no, we don't have any merch?
Well, I'm not sure the legalities of it, because I remember
things for that. Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, I mean, it's probably signed into their contracts, tour contract.
It will be.
I remember it was before I moved here, but Wasp played down at the O2, and Wasp is basically the Blackie Lawless show now, isn't it?
Yeah,
to a degree. And this is going back 10, 12, 13 years. He turns up there, the band turn up, and they say, we're taking 40% of your merch. And he's like, no, we're not. No, you're not. And they're like, well, you are, because that's how it operates here. And he refused to play. He didn't go on. Gig was cancelled. And he stood his ground against them.
Fair play.
And then that night, apparently, his road crew were selling merch out the back of the tour bus.
I think you're right about the contract thing, though. I think there's stories I've heard where bands have done this and they've not sold merch. It might have even been Orange Goblin. I don't know, and it might have been in Camden. I think it was Kentish Town, and they sold their merch in the pub down the road. Did just that, but because there was a contract that they had to sell merch in the venue, they sold a wristband or whatever it was, and that was it. That was the only merch they made available in the venue, and then everything else was in the pub.
The first time I came across it was when an indie band called the Big Moon from Brighton, bunch of women, they were playing the Kentish Town Forum, and the pub sort of next door.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I'm sure it was there.
Yeah. They said we're selling merch in there because it's a 40% take from the
O2. Wouldn't it be an idea for like bands like so the bracelet thing's a great idea. Well, you could have a T-shirt, with Municipal Waste on, and then it just says it's like a brick of text. It just says, "Don't buy this T-shirt because we're going to get fleeced 40% by the venue."
And only print one.
Yeah, and like print like 200, right? But then just like have it, and then when someone comes up, be like, "You really don't want to buy this T-shirt, mate."
They're Fruit of the Loom. No.
Yeah, but yeah.
They're from Taiwan. They'll fall to bits. They'll fall to bits after the second wash.
But the money side is the one thing that I do understand when people have to make that decision. If you work, as most of us do, payday to payday, and you have to budget for things, and you've got kids and all that kind of stuff, you do have to think, right, can I afford to spend 100 quid on a ticket, a train, a couple of beers, a kebab or whatever, a T-shirt?
This is the fucking problem, though, isn't it? Just don't have kids. Like, what are you doing? Just have one, like singular. In order to preserve heavy metal in this country, the UK government, whoever it is, whatever, needs to follow China's line, one child only policy, and just to for metal.
But we need the next generation of metal, though. I mean, I've got 2 kids. One is a metal fan, one isn't. So, if you have one child and they're not a metal fan, there's no bloodline.
You've done your bit.
Exactly. And the other one's a Villa fan, so I've done absolutely fine. I'm all good. But it's still a valid point. The cost is a valid point. And despite the fact that inflation is down to fucking 2% now and everything still seems to be going up in price.
This is not no. The thing is, people are missing the simple fact. Inflation might be back down to 2% from 10% or whatever stupid percent it was.
Yeah.
But we haven't had deflation.
No.
The money's
it's still up there.
Ridiculous because of a 10% jump. It hasn't gone down to a reasonable figure yet.
Yeah, we're still working on 2% above that 10% that it was, kind of thing. It's not. Yeah,
fucking winds me up. Oh, I've got the fucking inflation down to 2%. Aren't I brilliant? Fuck off. Fucking.
Yeah, and then there's like shrinkflation. Like what? How small are Jaffa cakes now? Like this is getting
Monster Munch as well. That's another. That's a worrying one.
I saw. I mean, and then you've got the actual just complete price gouging at festivals, for example. Like I saw a post on Facebook the other day, and it was it was the menu of a Cornish pasty shop at the F1 at Silverstone. It was 10 quid for a pasty.
Fucking hell!
The fuck,
mind you, if it was a half decent pasty, I'd sooner pay that than 10, 15 quid for some fucking rat burger. So,
every snack is smaller than it used to be, like in the 80s.
Oh yeah, completely. A Monster Munch is not a monster anymore. It's a mere fucking rodent.
You open a packet of crisps, there's like 20 crisps in there, and that's it.
Oh, don't get me started on that. That's got me countless times. What the fuck is in the bottom of this fucking packet? Unbelievable. But all right, there's something else that came up as well as another point. And I think, Dave, we were talking about this last week. It was tribute bands. Now, the rise of the tribute band over the past sort of 12 to 18 months has been quite alarming. And you are now also paying 20 quid for a ticket to see a tribute band. And from the small shows that we've been putting on and a couple of tribute bands that I've looked into, tribute bands are very expensive.
Mm.
I'm not going to talk about, costs and amounts and bands and things like that, but they don't come cheap. So if they are charging that amount of money, obviously a venue needs to charge a certain amount per ticket to make it worth their while. Where do we stand on that? Because, instead of paying 150 quid, 200 quid to go see Metallica, people will go and pay 20 quid to see Metallica tribute bands because they're going to hear the same songs. Where's the priority lie in that?
Here's the thing: is that the big venue, one of the best venues we got here is the Fleece, and it is just tribute band after tribute band after tribute band. And if you look on the O2 Academy's website now, they're creeping into there as well.
That's mad. A venue that size.
And these gigs fucking sell out.
Yeah, there you go.
They will sell out. I remember me and my other half saw Guns N' Roses at Hellfest, and they were fucking terrible. And we were stood there as we walked away after 10 minutes, and we said, "Oh, next time that band come through Bristol, Guns 2 Roses.
Yeah.
We'll go and see them, and then we'll work out who's best, the real one or the tribute band." Anyway, tribute band comes through town. It's 27 fucking quid down at the O2. It's like, fuck you.
Have you seen those? Like my mother does this. She goes to she's a big Elvis fan. She'll go to the concert where they have the hologram of Elvis from the Hawaii show he did, but they have the actual backing band that played with Elvis.
Yeah, you talked about this before. You had the same thing with Dio. I'm a bit on the fence about that. I kind of get that's quite cool, and you've got no choice with Elvis because he's dead.
But the point I was going to make in terms of the advancements, advancements in AI, right? Are we going to end up with a situation where the O2 can just buy a program, project a likeness of Metallica onto the stage, good sound, everything, pay a royalty fee or whoever to the band, and then you're just watching a holographic 2-hour set. Like, is that where we're going to end up?
We're already there.
One word: Kiss.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. ABBA are already doing it. Yeah, they've got a whole arena dedicated to it in East London, and it fucking sells out every night.
These bands, they're brands now, aren't they? That's
Yep.
the thing. They are brands. You know, look, we got orchestras playing music written 200 years ago by the great classical artists. You know, that's how different. That stuff lives. Yeah, but that's how that's stuck. Holograms and tribute bands, that's how classic pop and rock music is going to stick for the next few hundred years.
The London Symphony Orchestra is not a tribute band.
No, but it's a different kind of music.
That is a fucking... What you have just said, what has come out of your mouth?
What a line.
Like, these are people that play their instrument for years to get to that level in order to perform that music. Like that is completely different.
That's got to go on the In the Abyss t-shirt, isn't it?
100%. That's going on a t-shirt. But regardless of the London Philharmonic, tribute bands have their place. Don't get me wrong. I've got no issue with it, but it just seems to be taken over. And that's the weird thing about it. They're just, you know, the one tribute band that I spoke to you about booking a show, you know, no issues with what they wanted to charge. They agreed a fair rate and everything like that. But the problem was they're booked up. And when I spoke to them, this is going back, I think it was in March, something like that. They're booked up into next year. Every weekend that they can play, they're already playing shows and they're booked up for 12 months. So that says it all. As far as tribute bands go, they are good, but they are still just a tribute band. But if they're getting that kind of work for an entire year,
people don't want to take risks. They want to go out and listen to music that they know.
Yeah,
that's probably a very good point. It's familiarity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, us, because we are that much more, we're fools. We're you know, slaves to the riff. We'll go to a gig regardless. You know, I will happily pay 5-10 quid to go and see a band at a venue on the off chance they might be good. They might be shit. What difference does it make? Because this is what we do. This is what we love doing. It's the casual fan that make up the numbers. And that's what we're losing. But the casual fan will probably go to a tribute band first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The thing that worries me is you say that there's like 30 people at Flamebearer, and we've all got very, very high opinions of Flamebearer.
Fucking right.
And they're absolutely incredible. Brazen is in probably my top 3 of the year, for sure. And, you know, if they've got 30 people in a venue that size and they do 10, 11, 12 gigs that are exactly the same, when is that band meeting going to come where they're like, what's the fucking point?
What's the point? Yeah.
What's the point?
And, you know, they gave it everything that night. They could have been playing to 3,000 people. You know, once they get on stage, Andy jumps straight down onto the floor and just physically pulling people to the front, and everybody is crowded around the stage to make it feel like you're in a full room. And they did that really, really well. And they went absolutely fucking hell-bent for leather. But you're right. I don't think you can keep that up every single weekend you're playing a show. Something's got to give you that, you know, it's just human nature, isn't it? At some point you are going to go, you're right. So is it worth it anymore? I know they're in other bands and stuff as well, but even so, I mean, they're a great fucking band. You know, like you said, we sing their praises a lot, and more people need to just go and see these shows. Spend 7 quid on a show like that and don't have a beer or whatever, but you might end up seeing your favorite band. You know, it will happen.
That goes for the promoters as well, you know. So often we say like, oh, you know, they must have taken a hit on that, or, you know, promoters are losing money on that.
Yeah.
That's not fucking sustainable.
No, it's not.
That's going to give. And that person with all those contacts, you know, and all of that knowledge, it's just going to go, fuck it. I just can't be asked.
Yeah. How much does it cost someone like the New Cross in electricity bills to run that sound system they've got for 2 hours for 10 people watching 3 bands, and then have the sound person on, 2 bar staff, and in salary. And again, so you've got the promoters are going to be like, it's no point. The bands are going to get disenchanted, and then the venues are going to be like, some developer wants to give me 500 grand to turn this pub into a block of flats. Fuck it. Why am I bothering with this?
Yeah.
I mean, somewhere like the New Cross Inn, they they can balance it out because they have a lot of shows there and majority of them sell well. So if the odd one doesn't, they can carry that. But if you're in somewhere like, say, Radio City Social, where we've put on a couple of shows, that type of place, they absolutely rely on Saturday nights having a really good bar takings, Friday nights. Those are your bread and butter. You need that. And you with that kind of level, you definitely cannot take a hit. I can imagine the Griffin is exactly the same. They can't keep taking those hits, paying out the band, and 7 people turn up. It's great to be the centerpiece of a scene, but the centerpiece of a scene doesn't fucking keep you in business unless people actually turn up. It's very easy to be negative about all this because it is a little bit concerning. But when there's so much good stuff out there and there's so many great bands and there's promoters putting on these great shows, it just doesn't feel right that we're concerned about its existence, because we shouldn't be, because there is so much good stuff out there, and it's just frustrating that people don't seem to see that. So
yeah, but that's like for example, an economist in 2002 began, are you sure these mortgage-backed securities are good? Because I think we're going to have trouble. And they were, no, there's no problem, everyone's making money. And then 6 years later, the financial system is on its knees. People that do, not myself, but other people that are heavily involved in this kind of stuff, like you, Tregenza, are worth listening to. I mean, maybe you're the canary in the coal mine.
Fucking you're full of them tonight, aren't you? I think the guys we had on last week from Metal Brew, they've got a very interesting way of doing things, that's for sure. But the discussion we had about people getting together, different promoters in different parts of the country getting together and trying to support each other, having this kind of network. You've got this group of festivals around Europe that do it on a bigger scale. Is there not something in place, or something that could be put in place within the UK for the smaller promoters to do that? London Metal Coalition, it's a great thing. Just all these bands and all these people that come together, they put on shows, they have nights out, all that kind of thing, just to sort of generate some interest and get these bands playing gigs and getting the music out there. That needs to happen more. It has to be about the community. And as cliched as that sounds, that's really important. It goes back to the point I made about word of mouth. There's no better form of promotion than people talking about it, and more. That's what needs to happen. But again, that's the hardened fan. It's not the casual fan, and it's the casual fan that needs to turn up and keep these events going.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because people feel that they're not getting their money's worth for something or what, but
what do people could consider getting their money's worth? This is where the festival thing is, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's what we're saying.
What is it these people want? Do they want to see like virgins sacrificed on stage?
Yes.
If that's what they want, then let me know. I can get you a virgin. But no, it's expectations. Like, they want, so they're expecting like a Rammstein style show at a small pub. And like, no, you go, you have a beer, you watch the band. The bonus for me with those kind of like New Cross Inn style gigs is like, we went up and had a chat with Flamebearer afterwards. That's why you go to these things, because it's a much more personal experience. Seeing Iron Maiden at Reading or Donington or someone like that is fantastic, and Bruce is very good at projecting himself, but you're still with a crowd of 80,000. But you go and see, like, the first time I saw Maiden was in Shepherd's Bush Empire, and that was much better because it was a smaller venue. And
that was a great gig. That was great.
Yeah. And it's like
no theatrics whatsoever. Was completely stripped down.
There's a lot to be said for the small gig, when you can actually make eye contact.
Fuck it, look. The small gig, I will take a sweaty 100 capacity room over anything. The Hellripper show at the Black Art last year will be one of the most memorable gigs in the last decade. It was fucking unreal. That connection between the band and the crowd was like something I haven't seen at many shows in recent years. It was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And you don't need any faff and any fuss. It was 15 quid a ticket. It sold out. It was absolutely rammed. It must have been about 60 degrees in there, and it was absolutely fucking wild. Brilliant night. You know, I can't get enough of that. As great as a stadium show is, you just can't fucking beat those sweaty little shows. You're getting fucking tramped on and kicked on, or you're getting a beer can thrown at your nose, or it's all part of it. Those are the experiences that I want personally. But
that was Tail Gunner.
That was Tail Gunner. Yeah, I know. But
that
was the same. That was a sold out show as well, and that was great. You know, but people want different things, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think the casual gig goer or festival goer, because they've got so little to compare it to, that their expectations are based on seeing the larger gigs.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And,
yeah,
you know, so maybe it's a misalignment of expectations. And but like, you know, why aren't people encouraged? Like, if you've got a group of friends, and like you've got some people that like have been to a few festivals but not gigs, like, why aren't you encouraging taking them there? You know, that kind of stuff. Like I used to spend a lot of time trying to encourage people to come to, like, you know, the opera with me, because there used to be these like sets in when I lived in Korea, like every 4 times a year, the local philharmonic would do like this kind of classical greatest hit set of opera tunes and stuff. And I said, no, I said, come along. I said, trust me, you'll be able to sit there and go, that's that fucking Volkswagen advert, you know, or that's from that yogurt commercial. I said, you'll be surprised at how many of the tracks you actually recognize. And once you recognize them, you'll just sit there. It's an hour long, but come along, you have a good time. We'll drink a bottle of wine before we go in. We'll sit at the back of the opera, watch it, have a good laugh, and then we'll go out and get smashed afterwards. And it was cool, you know. But you've got to have people that are kind of going, look, you've got to do this. It's cool, you know.
But there's only so much you can do that, and that's where promoters are struggling. They can't, if you can't get people out of their houses and into the venues, what else are you supposed to do? You know, like I keep saying, is
have your own minibus to go around. It's like
go around picking people up.
They're like these buses that go around and they pick up old people to take them to the dentist. It's like that, but for thrash, right?
Thrash bus.
It's like the metal wagon comes around to pick people up to take them to, like, you know.
The bell rings out. It's like the fucking bells from the start for whom the bell tolls, and it's like the thrash bus is here. Everyone fucking tears out. It would be great, but it's, I don't know.
But what about this? You have a large enough bus. The bus has got a stage at the back of it, right? The band on the bus, you bring the gig to the person.
Well, on that note, I did think the other day that ice cream vans are missing a trick by not having metal blasting out when they go.
What do you mean, like Van Halen, Ice Cream Man?
I'd love a heavy metal ice cream van. Be all over that. Yeah, 100%. So what's the future then? Where's it going to go? Prediction. Where are we going to be in 2 years? Are we going to be fucking sat home with no gigs to go to, and everyone's pissed off and everyone's moaning about it? Well, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
I think it will be marginally better. Again, the further we move away from COVID, and also it's worth pointing out there are still people, because technically we are still in a pandemic, albeit extremely low level, and there are a lot of people out there who are avoiding social situations to the same
completely. Yeah.
So that still a thing, but I think it will be marginally better. I think the economy will be marginally better, etc., etc. It ain't going to change anytime soon. Like I say, and that is partly because our culture is just too much going on.
Will it shift when, like we've talked about before, when the big boys start to hang up their boots?
No.
Will that support shift?
No.
Or are we just going to get other bands that will step into that sale, that, we won't have that same status, but they will step into that 150 quid?
I think those days are over. I think once the old guard, the download headliners go, there's no one to replace them. There's literally nobody to replace them.
But they'll force bands into that position.
Yeah.
But they may force bands into that position, but then you'll be put in the same situation where that band isn't big enough to sell 60,000 tickets.
Dave's right. Yeah. Dave's right. And also, it's all very well saying, what about we need the part-time gig goers? We need the casual fans to go to these gigs, right? What do the big gigs like Download look like when we don't go?
Yeah, they'd be screwed.
Yeah, exactly. It works both ways because you can have like 25, 35, 45,000 18 to 30-year-olds. But what happens when, our generation are like, oh, fuck off. I'm not buying tickets for that shit, And, it's.
The thing with, I hear it all the time. It's like, the problem with download is it's the same headliners all the time. It's Rammstein or Iron Maiden or Metallica or, okay, take all those bands out of that. Who the fuck is going to headline 100,000 people in a field?
Fall Out Boy.
No one.
the good thing
that's probably why they've had to go on to those kinds of bands, because there's no one in metal doing it.
No,
there's literally nobody in metal that is big enough to, and probably ever will be that big to play those kind of sounds.
The thing as well, like going back to what you were saying about going to like the Monsters of Rock at Donington, Dave, is like Metallica played the old Donington. Metallica played there 4 times, but they only headlined it once in '94. Maiden played it
95.
Maiden 95. Maiden played twice.
88, 92.
Yeah. Maiden played that concert ran for 16 years, and Maiden only played it twice. How many times have Maiden headline Download?
Yeah, a few times now.
It's not special anymore.
No.
Maiden headlined Donington in '88.
It was a different time. It was pre-internet. Bands were becoming huge. It was before the advent of streaming. It was before the advent of YouTube. It was before the advent of everything like that, of that instant gratification culture. And bands generally made it fucking massive. I know. I used to live. My lodger used to be Matt, the bass player from Svalbard, and they got signed to Nuclear Blast. They released their last album, Weight of the Mask. It's been streamed, whatever, look it up. But within 2 or 3 months of that album coming out, their streaming revenue was £30.
Fuck.
Now, if that was 30 years ago and people really wanted to listen to that album and go out and buy that album, that would be their full-time job.
Yeah.
They made 30 quid.
No, the point about the lack of headliners and who you're going to put on. This happened at Glastonbury this year, and I hate to raise that festival.
No,
again,
you're right. Yeah.
But Saturday night was that fucking indie band who sing Yellow.
Yeah.
Not knowing. So that was Saturday night. Yeah, okay, fair play. And Sunday night was someone called SNA.
I got no idea. It was Elton John last year and that this year,
Yeah, hip hop artists from America. And apparently it was, half capacity because people were fucked off already. Because
I've seen pictures and videos and it was sparse to say the least.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, by all means, get them on, but you're answering our question already. What happens when you headline someone who isn't a headliner? No one watches them. And if it's a Sunday, maybe they did it on a Sunday night because it's like, right, fuck it, fill the gap and we can actually get started and clean up nice and early.
There's a reason you have bands or performers like Elton John headline a festival like Glastonbury. Whether you like Elton John or not, he's been playing live and writing music since the 70s. He
60s.
knows how to perform. He's a performer.
Yeah.
Right? He is one of the absolute elite. Same as Metallica, same as Maiden, same as back in the day Michael Jackson. Or that level of perform Rolling Stones as well.
Yeah.
That's what you need when you headline a festival like that, or you headline Reading, or you headline Donington, or you headline Download, or whatever it is. You need that caliber, not just in terms of the size of the band and how popular they are, but they actually need to be good. They need to be able to play live. They need to be able to work the crowd, put the performance in. It's not just about the songs they sing, it's about everything else they do, the gravitas, the way they interact with the fans. And if bands are only big on Spotify, if they've never learnt their craft playing the small shows, like the Beatles did when they went to Hamburg and they played all those shows at the Reeperbahn, and they perfected their live show before they went and got big. You don't do that, you're never going to be able to carry off those big festivals. And if you book, if you're, it's all very well saying about the small promoters, but if you've got someone like Clear Channel and they book a band for Download and they go, right, we're going to pay you £1 million to headline Download this year, and then that band are absolute pants, and everyone's like, fuck that, I'm not going to Download again. They'd be like, well, fuck that, we won't book that band again because they're unreliable, they're shit, they're not going to, they're not going to put in the crowd. So again, it goes both ways with the promoters.
The point about selling out, the festival selling out. So what, 3 days before the event, roughly, Download announced that it was sold out. That was it. Now, I thought that was odd that all of 3 days before they're announcing that it's sold out. I heard a couple of people on other podcasts and on social media and things like that saying there was no way Download was sold out this year. They could just tell by the number of people compared to last year and this year, Download was not sold out. Now, it does seem a little bit odd that 3 days before they announced it's sold out. They know you're not going to sell any more tickets 3 days before the event. So you can kind of go, right, it's sold out. That makes it look like there's a demand. That makes it look like we've booked the right headliners. It's just spinning it, isn't it? There's no way that with those headliners they had, 100,000 people paid for that weekend. I know a lot of people will go to Download because it's Download and they'll go regardless of the bands. You're going to have a core element of that. But again, coming back to the casual fan, Queens of Stone Age, Fall Out Boy, and Avenged Sevenfold. And whether you're into any of those bands or not, none of those are 100,000 performing bands. They're just not even close.
No.
And this goes back to that whole point about a spectacle. As much as if you love Queens of Stone Age, fair enough, and a lot of people do, they just played. They may as well have been playing at the Astoria or the fucking Brixton Academy.
They headlined Margate outdoors last year, didn't they? Which is a 7,000 capacity.
They're not a spectacle, so it would have been this, which is probably why the likes of someone like Pearl Jam wouldn't necessarily work at Download. It's not a spectacle. So I don't believe for a minute that Download actually sold out. They've just spun that to make it look like, to vindicate the bookings they made.
Well, it's the oldest trick in the book, isn't it? It's marketing.
Yep.
And, we've all put gigs on and, you say that you've only got 10% of the tickets left. You don't. You've got 40%.
Yep.
You want to drive up that interest. And they want to say it's sold out. Yeah, you're not going to sell any more 3 days before. They want to get that appetite going. Early bird tickets go on sale. Need to get my tickets.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like
early bird tickets are a big seller now.
I did think about something the other day. When I was in Bristol and down near the Hippodrome, there's like a food shack or something, and it's got a sign saying it's selling Cornish pasties, and it's like award-winning Cornish pasties, and I'm like, who's giving out these awards? And it's like when you go past the pub,
probably
when you go past the pub, and it's like award-winning ales. What award? What the fuck? Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like
it is false marketing. And don't forget with Glastonbury, we're talking about that festival too much, but it's bound to happen. But don't forget, they don't announce the bands until, a couple of months before the event. Tickets are already sold. It's a ballot for Glastonbury now because 500,000 people want to go, but only 200,000 can or whatever it is. So people will go to Glastonbury regardless. They're at that point where it doesn't matter. They'll always sell out. But if they carry on booking shit headliners, that may change.
That's the situation.
Headliners aren't announced, are they, when tickets go on?
No, not at all. They don't announce anything. So it's always sold out before the bands are announced.
That's the situation with Hellfest as well. So Hellfest tickets go on sale next Tuesday. And you don't find out the lineup until October.
So you've been to Hellfest, haven't you? How does it differ? I mean, we went to Wacken, but that was 2006, 2007, so a long time ago. How does it differ at Hellfest to, say, going to Download?
So I've been, this is the first year that I haven't been in about 10 years. It's the site itself. They own the site. So they've got full control over the site.
Yeah.
So all of the plumbing is in place. They've got underground beer pipes that go to all the bars. So the lorries can just rock up and plug in and you got fresh beer. So the infrastructure of it is absolutely fantastic. it's clean, and just the quality of band every single year.
Oh, it's incredible.
The quality of the lineup is just outstanding. You know that it's going to be fucking brilliant. With festivals over here, but you know, the two biggest ones, Download and Bloodstock, you don't know what you're going to get. Everyone raves about Bloodstock, but they're kind of falling into that position themselves now. Oh, Megadeth headlining again, and you know, because they're only so big and they're only attracting certain kind of band.
Yeah.
The thing with Hellfest is just because of its sheer size, they can book anyone they want. And because there's such a multitude of stages, they can book a band that will play the Griffin.
Yeah.
Or a band that will play Wembley Stadium.
Well, that's it. I mean, this year they're Foo Fighters and fucking Metallica. And over the 4 days, it's, you know, and because their stages are basically subgenre based, aren't they? You know, if you want to go and see punk hardcore bands and things like that, it's the Warzone, I think that's called, isn't it?
That's right.
And I've watched quite a lot of it on YouTube on my TV, or the stream footage and that. And every year I watch it, it looks fucking great. And I noticed that a lot of the stage areas, it's concrete or tarmac as well. It's not grassed.
It's like that. You know, it's again just so well thought out. So when I first started going, you would have your circle pits, massive clouds of dust. But now in front of the two stages, they've got that kind of spongy shit that you get in playgrounds.
But how is that?
So if you fall over, you're not going to split your head open.
But it's the money side of it. Am I right? I think there's some kind of subsidy from the French government for Hellfest. There's something going on that, because
I think
you can't have lineups like that. And yeah, it's you think about what that lineup must cost, and to actually keep that sustainable, there must be something in the background supporting that. Because, you know, what's it, 80,000 people, something like that, isn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's roughly down.
If the far right get in France, then that means Count Grishnag is going to headline Hellfest next year. It's a government subsidy. Yeah, supported by Phil Anselmo.
It's probably a good time to sort of wrap it up. Really, we haven't answered any questions. We very rarely do, but it is all very.
We have no idea. Quite
no, we haven't got any idea. But like I said, when I put it out to social media and the response we're getting, it is every sort of different reason you could think of. So everybody's got their own reason for not going to gigs or an opinion on it or whatever. All we're saying is, and that's why we're calling this episode a call to arms. All we're saying is do what you can to support the small shows, whether you share stuff on social media, whether you go to the shows, whether you take a friend to a show, whatever it may be, just do whatever you can, because that's what will keep it going. That's what will keep the venues in business, the small venues, the pubs, and it will keep the bands touring. You know, so it's down to us, the music fan, to do what we can. But I don't know. Hopefully it's enough.
I think you're right. You know, saying that, you know, we haven't come up with any answers, but I think just presenting the conversation to put it in front of people's minds and just reiterate and just to get people thinking whatever they say that their issue is, that there is a problem, and just, you know, I think everyone knows there's a problem.
Yeah.
So it's just putting it out in the limelight a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So next time you think going to get a takeaway, I tell you what, save that 40 quid, spend 10 quid on a gig ticket, go and have a couple of beers, get a rat bastard kebab on the way home, and look at that and hopefully you think, fuck me, I had a great night out, I'm going to go again and do it again in a couple of weeks. You know, that's the hope. That's what we're trying to get across, is that there's so much enjoyment out there to be had from all of this. So go out there and fucking enjoy it, and, you know, put the money where it matters. So yeah, and, you know, spend it in Dave's shop as well.
Yeah, please. When are you coming over again?
Well, every time we do, you turn us upside down and empty our fucking pockets. So, you know, yeah, soon. But Dave,
yeah, I won't be down till probably next year, because I've banned myself from vinyl this year until I buy a place.
Yeah, well, that hasn't gone well, has it? You banned yourself from fuck all.
I bought one new album from this year, otherwise, and a handful of cheap second hands. But compared to last year, I'm fucking acing it.
Yeah, fucking.
But once I bought a place next year,
Yeah, all right.
Dave's going to be rich.
So you're telling me you're not buying another record for the rest of this year?
No, I said I've significantly reduced my vinyl output.
I'm sure you said you banned yourself. Now
That's
you're
good.
moving the goalposts. So
yeah, I know, but that's as good as banning myself.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, on that note, Dave, thanks again for coming on, mate. It's always good.
That's all right.
Anytime,
always a pleasure.
Thanks for staying awake because you do look tired. And
thanks, mate.
We are all fucked, I think.
I don't know. I'm on holiday now for the next week, so I'm fine. Thanks to everybody for listening to this. I hope that people take something from it, even if it's 10 people. Everything helps at the minute. So, do what you can to support the scene and all that jazz. But next week, I don't know what we doing next week. I
have no idea.
No idea. Oh, I think Fracture Point are joining us next week. Do a bit of Metal Island Disc, so we'll have a bit of that.
Oh, excellent! Yes.
Yeah. So until that, thanks again for listening, and as always, stay metal and go and spend money in Dave's shop.